Nation self-interest dialogue. The self-interest of the nation make the world become a dangerous place to live. Each country wants to defend its national interests regardless the means they have to use. National interests of the countries make the theory of political liberalism become a mockery or a fiction theory. As several political scholars noted that liberalism is the theoretical perspective based on the assumption of innate goodness of the individual and the value of political institutions in promoting social progress. I do not ignore that the human being can promote good. However, it has to be in their self-interest. The world could be a better place to live if the key actors of the international system, which are governmental organizations, non-governmental organizations, want to cooperate in order to promote positive change. Unfortunately, the international politic, in another word, the politic of the world, bases on the national interest, which poison the whole world. Niccolo di Bernardi dei Machiavelli, historian, politician, diplomat, philosopher, and ideas. His ideas has a great influence in the world politics. In the scene of international politics, general global interest doesn't exist. According to international law, the sovereignty of the state is sacrosanct. It must be respected. That is, external interferences regarding international politics are forbidden. United Nations Charter Article 2 focuses in sovereignty and the principle of non-intervention, justifying the domestic politics, state affairs are strictly forbidden to international interference. The concept is good, but it's not a reality. It is fiction. It is utopia. The international law has no teeth. That is, it cannot bite. The United Nations defends the interests of its greatest donors. It's not a fair institution. In another word, it is not there for all nations. It is not an independent institution. It follows order. For example, in 1995, during Mr. Clinton administration, there was a quagmire in Rwanda. The country became a butchery where over 1 million human beings lost their life. And the United Nations remained helpless because the ex-president of United Nations, the ex-president of United States, Mr. William Jefferson Clinton, did not authorize the United Nations to get involved. I mentioned by Mr. Kofi Annan, the ex-General Secretary of the United Nations. In the greatest hour of the need, the world failed of people of Rwanda. United Nations failed to accomplish its role, its mission, because it depends on its donors for survival. The world is a den of lions and tigers. Therefore, an institution must have the strongest teeth to deal with those wicked actors. United Nations is too weak for the world, too weak to deal with those selfish actors. The powerful states do not respect the international law. They do not abide by the rules of the nations. As long as their interests at the stake, they can become evil. I remember vividly the United Nations was opposed to the Iraq War because it was not justified. Mr. George W. Bush, the ex-president of United States, and Mr. Tony Blair, the ex-prime minister of Great Britain, were blind to defend the interests of their countries. They went to war with Iraq under a false pretext that Iraq was a dangerous country by arming with weapons of mass destruction. Mr. Kofi Annan, the ex-secretary of the United Nations, had heralded that war was not just, but its institution failed to prevent it because of the weakness of United Nations. Now, the United Nations is facing against a great challenge, which is the interference of Russia in the internal affairs of Ukraine. It is really a flagrant, gross violation of the international law. Those two states are in the brink of war. The Russian troops ordered that the crew of 2 Ukrainian warships to surrender. According to the media, 15,000 Russian troops are already on the Ukraine soil. It is a matter of national interest. The two principal actors, which are the United States and Russia, vow to defend the national interests of their country. Mr. Barack Obama, the President of the United States, and Mr. Vladimir Putin, the Russian President, have to use their understanding, use their political skill in order to resolve that conflict peacefully. It could be irrational for two great nations, Russia and the United States, engage in a bloody conflict because of Ukraine. I strongly believe diplomacy will prevail. In the international political arena, might make right. It is the survival of the fittest. There is no such thing of sovereignty of the state. It is a concept that's written on paper. When the strongest want to swallow the weakest, the gunboat diplomacy or big stick diplomacy will reappear. The strongest will always survive. That kind of foreign policies are dormant, and they still would wake them up. That's to say, the state could still use them when it is even necessary. In Ukraine situation, I believe the two actors, the United States and Russia, will use a catalytic force to find time to resolve that conflict pacifically. Russia is already in a better position than the United States because it's already used the expressive force to intimidate the state of Ukraine. In that case, the United States has to use its diplomacy power to convince Russia to move its troops from Ukraine. Using a definitive force to remove the Russian troops in Ukraine would be not advantageous for the United States. If the United States use the definitive force against Russia, the international community may judge it as a declaration of war. In case like that, the United States could be blamed for the aggressor. There is no viable reason to use hard power to resolve that conflict. The power of diplomacy will prevail, like I said before. The soft power strategy could be the best to use to find a solution. Morality is very scarce in international politics. The tendency of using force to defend the national interest between nations diminishes enormously the moral conception of man. In another word, the moral conception is paralyzed when it comes to international behavior. States behave irrationally. States are constantly in a state of antagonism. They have always competed for their self-interest. In the international arena, every man is for himself, and God is for all. Václav Havel, former president of Czechoslovakia, Herald, we live in a contaminated moral environment. Thank you.